Welcome to another episode of the Powerless to Powerful Recovery podcast. My name's Jason. I'm an alcoholic and addict. As always, our mission is to share experience, strength, and hope across multiple media platforms. The story of addiction and the road to recovery. We're not affiliated with Alcoholics Anonymous or any other 12-step-based organizations or groups in any way. And here we are. I got my co-host here, Ronnie, no matter what. What's up, Ron?
What's happening, Jay?
I mean, we're back again.
It seems like we live in this room, right? I love it, dude.
It does. Big shout out to Sanctuary Studios, Sanctuary Recovery Centers for letting us use their studio tonight to record the cast. And, here we are, man. It's Thursday, recording an episode.
Yes, sir.
I mean, it's a dream, huh, brother?
A dream, and this guy over here, we're going to hear about him, but I admire this dude right here. He's a go-getter. He's a powerhouse in the recovery community. I hear his name a lot. I admire what he's doing, so I can't wait to hear his story.
So we got Daniel B here. I mean, Big Daniel's on the show. I mean, this dude, let me tell you something about this dude. So I was at a facility, man, and, I was doing some service work and, bringing meetings into this facility, and there was an opportunity, and I came to this meeting, and Daniel was sharing, and me and Ron and I were talking about this before. We do a lot of speaker meetings ourselves, and I could be an extremely tough critic. It's a character defect of mine, right? Like, you got to really grab a hold of me right away. I got a high standard for a speaker meeting, and when I heard Daniel share, man, it blew me away.
Daniel, he actually came into work, right? Because our desks are right by each other. He came into work, and he was telling me about it, and I was like, yeah, really? To get Jay wound up like that first thing in the morning, talking about a speaker meeting the night from before. So I was pretty excited.
Yeah, that's dope.
Yeah, it was an excellent speaker meeting. So we got Daniel on the show today. Daniel, what's up, man?
What's up, brother?
I mean, here we are.
Yeah, here we are.
I mean, we finally made it happen. We've been talking about this for a while, trying to get you onto the show. We finally had an opening, and you got down here, man. I'm extremely grateful you took the time to come out here. But, this show's about having people on who are all-stars in their community. It's not always about recovery. It's just about people bringing that light to the dark areas of life and bringing things from the dark to the light, or shining their light, or using their past experiences to bring light to others. That's what this thing's all about. Daniel's a prime example of it. His program today, the sponsees that he has, the action steps that he takes daily, it's the blueprint, man. So we want to get him on the show today to share that blueprint. But we don't show up, Ron. We both know we don't show up to treatment facilities or AA meetings when we're on a winning streak, right?
Not at all.
No. I mean, you didn't come.
I might tell you I'm on a winning streak in the way I tell the story.
Yeah, we go back 12 years. It's been long. We're finally on a winning streak, but we were on a 10-year losing streak.
Losing streak.
I mean,
but not according to the way we tell it.
Yeah, but if you don't shoot, you can't score, brother.
That's right, man.
And we're shooters. So Daniel's going to take a shot today, and we're going to hear his story, and my point is that, to earn that, when I say earn your seat in the fellowship or whatever you choose to call your fellowship, to earn that seat, there's a lot you got to do, a lot of pain, a lot of desperation, a lot of trial and error. So we're going to hear a little bit about Daniel today. So Daniel, why don't you take the opportunity just to, tell everyone about the family dynamic, what it was like growing up for you, because there's trauma, the childhood, the family dynamic, the drug. I mean, there's just so much. Your story is so impactful. So why don't you just kind of give us just a look at what it was like growing up for you?
Sure. Thanks for having me here, guys. I'm really grateful to be here. My life, it seems like it's been a series of, near-death experiences. I've gone through that so many times. It's just, I know there's a God, and I know that it's a miracle that I'm right here right now with you guys, straight up. And so I thank God first and foremost for me being here and being able to do this and carry this message. The first attempt against my life was by my own mother, ironically. And it's because my dad had been divorced from her for about 10 years before I was conceived. He had 4 kids with her. I was the last of 4. And he had another woman that was his legit wife. And so my mom was just his side piece. And he'd go over there and just hang out with the kids. And then he'd get with my mom and then bounce. And he'd just come back and forth. He did that for years to her. But when she got pregnant with me, she was in denial. She would always tell me while I was growing up that the dates didn't match up, that she doesn't know how she ended up pregnant. That doesn't make any sense. She's like, I know he has to be your dad, but I wasn't with him. And I had my period. when she got pregnant. She's like totally blown away.
She's
by
like, nah, don't check out.
Yeah, she's
Yeah,
like,
math
the
don't
dates
check
don't
out.
match, right? So then after a while and I was developing and she felt me moving around inside of her, she was like, oh, hell no, not again, right? She didn't want to have another kid by this dude. So she tried to get an abortion. And a guy used to joke at the facility I was at, and he should be like, I'm a grateful survivor of an abortion. You know what I mean? And like, no, dude, that's really my life story. Like I survived an abortion attempt. My mom wanted to get rid of me and it just didn't happen. They wouldn't do it for her. So she carried me through. I put her through labor for 48 hours, I guess, to get back at her a little bit.
That's a stretch. That's
and
a stretch.
I was born the last day of the year. I was delivered on December 31st of 81. After that, I never really bonded with her. I remember vaguely certain things of me just hanging out with her when she would take me out to Wiener Schnitzel or something like that. But what I do remember most starkly in my early childhood was when she took me to live with my dad and his wife. And my sister Joanna was with me, and she's 5 years older than me, so she was about 9. I was 4. That's when I got to know who this man was, and he's an alcoholic, raging, violent, belligerent, drunk. But yet he was like Jekyll and Hyde, because when he wasn't drunk, he was really nice. He liked to take us out, do things, take us on vacation, go visit family, play Mr. Nice Guy, buy the gifts, do all that
dad.
stuff.
Yeah, confusing.
Yeah, and that's how he manipulated my mom for so long, because he'd shower her with gifts and then be mean to her, cheat on her, leave her, and come back and do it all over again, With us, though, there was a lot of mental manipulation, lying, verbal abuse, physical abuse. My sister and I, we used to just try to cling to each other and help each other, and he'd beat us both down, and we figured we'd share the beating so that he wouldn't just wear one of us out. He lied to me and told me that my stepmom was my real mom, and he forced me to call her mother. And if my mom called on the phone, I had to call her by her first name. I had to call her Lynn. I couldn't call her mom because he'd beat my ass. He'd be on another line listening. And I guess my mom didn't understand that. She thought that maybe I was upset, so she took it to heart, and she just kind of like drew back.
Just fell back, right?
Yeah,
like,
she didn't want to continue to pursue a relationship because she felt, I guess, rejected. And that's understandable. The one time that I did see her throughout those 4 years that I was with him in my early childhood, she showed up drunk because my mother's an alcoholic also. She showed up drunk with her boyfriend at the time. I opened the door, jumped in her arms. My dad came out. Dude got into it with my dad. They got in a little scuffle. He kicked my dad in the nuts. My dad went for a shotgun. Cops came and all that. Well, I got beat up for that after that, because I was wrong for opening the door, But I was just a kid, and I wanted to see my mom. My sister used to play songs, and we used to listen to oldies. And there's this song called Dry Your Eyes, and it's like an oldie, and it's about, it says something like mother's got to go now. And it's really deep. It's really sad. It's like an ethereal song, and as a child and knowing that this lady's not my real mom and my real mom is not around and I can't connect with her, like it was like something that for many, many years, even up until recently, I'd hear that song, dude, and it would just break me.
Yeah, it just hit you right in the heartstrings.
Yeah.
You got a song like that, Ron?
Yeah. Karen Carpenter. Karen Carpenter, I love you, mommy.
And that hit you?
Yeah, it hits me hard because my mom, that was our song. Because at the end of that song, Karen Carpenter's real son says, I love you, mommy. And that was, whenever we'd hear that song in the car, I would be that little boy saying that at the end of the song. And it would just
hit the strings.
Man, but real quick, I hear it. I hear that pain in your voice, right? How confusing that is for a child.
Yeah.
Growing up, you have all these mixed messages. We just want to be loved.
Yeah.
Because at that age, you just want affection. You just don't want to be safe. And you didn't have that. You had your sister.
Right. It was just me and her, man. And we were real close for a while. But eventually, throughout the years of abuse and stuff, my sister even, due to her own situation and the things that were happening to her. And a lot of this stuff, we talk about it now, and she tells me, like, don't you remember this, bro? And I'm like, I don't. I really don't. There's certain things that I blocked out of my memory. And I think it's like a compartmentalization, thing that we do to survive certain traumas. Because I'll remember most of it, but I don't remember some particulars. And she tells me the particulars, and they're just even worse, And it's like, She also was abused in different ways by him. At a point, she got to where like she wasn't so much friendly with me, and like she became abusive towards me too, you know, because she was dealing with a lot of anger. And she's a little bit older. She got into her pre-adolescent teens, and she started like lashing out at me. So I was getting beat up by her while they were at work, and then they'd come home and I'd get beat up again. You know what I'm saying? Because she'd lie and tell them that I did something, so it'd cover her ass. And then, you know, so I was alone a lot, and I felt really vulnerable, very weak. Just to give you a quick little idea of what kind of abuse went on, he was a Mexican, traditionally Mexican, you know, rancher type dude, and he liked eating fresh meat, freshly slaughtered meat. So he'd take me to the ranch with him in the morning. He'd like to go drink when he's hungover and get some goat milk with tequila mixed up. It's called pajaretes. It's like a Mexican elixir for when you're hungover. You know what I mean? Coats the stomach.
Okay, all right.
Cures the head.
I thought it was menudo. I thought you could
that one too.
Oh, that
right?
one too. Okay,
Yeah.
I
all
could have
right.
used that.
Yeah, you could have used that with your milk. Yeah, I hear you.
So we'd go over there and he'd do that, and I'd watch him slaughter cows, man, pigs, goats, whatever, you know, whatever he wanted, and
Dramatic.
he'd bring it home. And I remember him putting like the whole cow head, the cow that I saw that was just alive, and then they killed it and it's still kicking and twitching, and they're cutting open its stomach and peeling back the skin and doing all that, you know, real graphic shit.
Yeah.
And
I couldn't do it, dude. I'll straight fall out.
yeah, right. He puts it in the oven, bakes it for a while, pulls it out, and it's just right there on the table. The eyeballs in there, the tongue in there, the brains in there. He's just getting pieces of cheek muscle, and you know, and he's like, "Here, you know, have some." And I would eat it, but I was really grossed out by it. You know what I mean?
What's that called? The meat, the cheek. There's a name for it. Because I went and had tacos.
Yeah, cabeza. They call it cabeza. Yeah, it's
So
like the
let me-
whole head.
let me
They mix
t-
it all up.
Yeah, let me tell you a little something, dude. I couldn't do it. We were on a camping trip one time. My boys are all hunters, right? You know what I mean? They're like, "Come on, Jay, you can come go hunting with us." I'm like, "Yeah, I'll go hunting with you." Sitting in tree stands for days and shit with a bow, right? Yeah. Well, on this particular trip, they get one, right? An elk. We walk up on this elk, dude. I faint, bro. I'm like, boom, just fall over, dude. I couldn't even see it, dude. I ain't got the stomach for that shit.
Yeah.
I don't, dude.
Yeah.
So I couldn't even imagine that at such a young age, dude. You know, just going through with it. So
Yeah.
what other types of abuse and trauma?
He'd bring the animals home. He'd kill the animals after I befriended him. I thought they were my pets. There was a time where he brought me puppies, like a series of puppies. There was about 7 of them. And I recall them dying and me having to bury them, but my sister said that he would play Russian roulette, and I vaguely remember him pulling out a gun and pointing it at us. But she said he would play Russian roulette with us when he's drunk, and then he'd shoot the dogs, and that's how they all died. So we had a pet cemetery back there. They were all my puppies, like 7 of them. The last one, he just let me have it for a while. One night he wakes me up. He liked to play doctor. He'd always, you know, get the lab coat on, the gloves, and he'd bring penicillin and B12 and stuff, and he'd give us shots and whatever. And he was just like that. And so he woke me up one night and tells me to go with him in the garage. I go in the garage, and my dog's on top of his workbench on top of a hefty bag, and it's split down the middle, opened up with the organs on the side. And he's yelling at me, telling me that I killed the dog, and that's how he found out, because he had opened him up, did like an autopsy, and he's showing me this organ. He's like, "That's a tumor. You did that from kicking him." And I was like, "I never kicked my dog. You know, I love this dog."
Yeah.
And he's like, "I saw you do it, you know," and I was like, I saw how he was and what he just did, so I was like intimidated and afraid, and I was like, "Okay, I'm sorry, you know, I was just
my
broke
bad.
down." Yeah, so I went back to bed, and I remember that night questioning reality, like maybe I did do it, you know, blaming myself. He'd beat me with a extension cord or a cable cord, tell me to go outside and grab a stick, and I think a skinnier one's gonna hurt less, but I learned real quick that that's not the case. Yeah, those are like whips, you know, they'll cut you up. He'd have us do like different corporal type punishments, leaning up against the wall, like in a sitting position till your knees, till your legs buckle, kneeling on the carpet like one of those doormats that's real rough that you put outside your house to get like the mud and stuff off.
Yeah, if you kneel on one of those, yeah.
Yeah, for hours at a time. He made, you know, my sister and I do yard work and then lick the sweat off each other's back because we were arguing or something. He'd put me on food restrictions. I had to eat like pea soup while they would eat pizza, chicken.
Right at the same
dogs.
table too, right?
Yeah, at the same table and all that. And this one time I was over it. I had to eat that pea soup every day, for breakfast, lunch, and dinner for like a few days, and I just couldn't do it anymore. And he's sitting down drinking in front of me, and I was just waiting. I just hoping that he would send me back to my room, you know, but he wasn't. He forced me to eat it. So by then it had already gotten cold and it was gross, and I ate it. I tried to take it down, and it came right back up, right? And when he jumped up and grabbed that cord, he called it a chicote. A chicote means like whip. And he would make this out of an extension cord or something, and just wrap it up a couple of times, and he'd beat me with that. So when he jumped up to grab it like he was going to hit me with it, I just ate the vomit. You know what I mean? I just went back and ate that. And it's a trip because I distinctively remember that the second time around it tasted better because it was at least a little warm because it had been inside me. You know what I mean?
I don't know if to laugh or cry. I mean, God.
It wasn't that bad, bro. My throat, when I threw it up, it wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
And he let me go back to my room after that. You know, that saved me. But that was the kind of terror and fear that he had instilled in me. I was willing to do anything and everything I could to avoid his rage and his punishment. And I don't know why he would beat me so much, but he would tell me that I deserved it, that it was what a good son needed, and if I was a good boy, that I would thank him for it. And so he had me under that type of control. And after he'd beat me for seemingly no reason that I can think of, at least not at that severity of it, you know, I would thank him and say, "Thanks, Dad, I deserve that." You know, and that's the kind of mind control trip I was on with him. Ultimately, my sister ran away, and then not long after that, I stopped coming home because I'd get beat up for coming home late, but I was dragging my feet because I didn't want to go back to that house.
Why would I go home to that?
So I finally just got out of there, went to live with my mom, and at the time she had a new husband, which was the guy that got into it with my dad that one day, and my mom just didn't bond with me, man. She was more interested in her husband, you know, and I needed that. I needed to bond with somebody, one of my parents, you know, and I didn't get that, so I went out to the streets. And I found that. I found being in the streets and experimenting with drugs. And, you know, we'd break into apartments. I was about 11 years old, man. We'd break into these vacant apartments, and we'd get a hefty bag and a stick, and we'd pop open the refrigerant valve of the air conditioning unit, get that stick just to move the valve and fill up that hefty bag. And we'd go in there and we'd inhale that refrigerant, bro. And we'd pass out and hit our heads on the floor. Oh,
yeah. You ever huffed it? You ever?
Yeah.
Yeah, you look like you were
hippie
huffing.
crack,
Yeah,
man.
you look like you'd be huffing some
Yeah.
shit. A potpourri.
Yeah.
You look like a carb cleaner type dude over
Dude,
there, Ron.
one time I huffed so much, my girlfriend showed up. We were in this trailer huffing for like 6 hours. And
6 hours.
Because that stuff takes the oxygen out of you. And my face was, she walks in, she goes, "Ron," she brings me in the bathroom. And I looked in the mirror, and my face was purple. My lips were blue because I didn't have no oxygen left.
Yeah.
It ain't no joke.
I'm surprised I survived that part of my life, dude. We used to make each other pass out when we didn't have anything like that going on. We'd just get a pillowcase and wrap around our necks.
Yeah,
just,
do this one.
Yeah, or when you squat down, you take a bunch of deep breaths. You stand up, and somebody punch you in the chest. You know what I mean? Like, stupid shit, bro. Like we were just trying to find a thrill.
And so when you come from a childhood like that, that's full of trauma and abuse and absentee parents, and it makes the perfect combination for that lifestyle on the streets, right?
Absolutely.
Because, and I think that all three of us at some point in some way, with the amount of prison time that all of us have been a part of, and, the different aspects of doing prison time, and we've all had that belief, that false family belief that we believe it to be, and then we stick around long enough and you realize it's a facade. And, I think that originally, this is just my opinion, I think that originally, like, prison gangs and just all gangs in general at one time had a good motive for doing it. It was to protect their own. But what ends up happening is that the drugs and the women and the alcohol and the insanity that comes with the drugs and the alcohol and the women, it completely has just turned it into something that's just such a unreal aspect.
We've all seen it, right? We've all seen it, and like hearing your story, and I know many people who've had similar experiences, right? And then as they get older and they get in trouble and they get introduced to the streets, and you look to the older OGs, that's your father figure, and your brother figure, and
always.
And then when you go to prison, that fault said, "Hey, brother," all of a sudden you have that thing you've been craving for so long.
It's a family, right?
Right.
Family life of it. Yeah.
People treating you like a human being. They're not making you eat your puke. And then the drugs come into play, right? And then we truly find out what it's about. But that's why we run to that. And I see a lot of people do that. And we see the youngsters, when they go into the prison system, get used up like that.
Yeah,
right?
I mean that's exactly what happens, right? And
They're craving, starving that attention, right?
Yeah. And so now here you are, you hit the streets, now you start using, and you're using weed and smoking weed and drinking, hitting licks already, 11, 12 years old. For all of our listeners across the country, all around the world, think about that. 11, 12 years old doing meth, hitting licks, right? Like that's the kind of lifestyle that you lived, and that's what the streets are, and the only way for you to make a name for yourself on the streets is being a young kid is to be the wildest.
Yeah.
So what's that time period look like for you when you turn to the streets and now you introduce addiction, because trauma, it goes hand in hand with addiction, and then the addiction feeds right into the trauma, right? And so now we got both these things, because drugs and alcohol are the solution to the problem, right? They work, right?
Yeah.
When I get high, I don't think about that, right? Don't think, don't feel, don't care. Drugs and alcohol work. So why don't you take us to that time period, get introduced to the the lifestyle on the streets and what that looked like for you.
Yeah, man. So I started hanging out with these older kids, and they like to get high on meth, and they were all smoking weed and drinking every day. And I thought that was cool. And I wanted to just be around them and hang out. And so I'd experiment and get high with them and stuff, but I didn't know how to act. And I'd get beat up, and they would,
Getting whooped again.
and the culture at the time, was like, you had to be tough. You had to show that you're willing to fight at all times, even with your friends, And I didn't know how to fight. I didn't understand that concept. Only thing I knew was being abused. To me, violence was always something that was done against me.
One-sided.
I wasn't the one that was violent towards others, right? And so I was out of my element. I mean, I could take the beatings, and I would just stand there and take it and not do anything. And then they're like, "Oh, you're a fucking punk. You're a bitch."
You're a pussy.
And then I'm like, "Oh shit, those words hurt more than these blows, because now my reputation's on the line, and how am I gonna have friends now?" So I remember the last time that I got beat up, it was on my front doorstep. Dude just walked up drunk. I went outside. He just socked me up and then called me a bitch and then walked away. And I was just like, fuck. And these other guys are looking at me. No, and they give you that look when they're just like, damn, dude, why didn't you do anything? Fuck. How you let them just hit you?
As a matter of fact, I do know that look too many times.
Yeah. So I go back in my house, and I'm like, and I started tearing up. Not because it hurt when he punched me, but it hurt that the other guys looked at me with that kind of like disappointment. Like, dude, I can't believe you just stood there and took it, right? So I was like, you know what? I made a decision that night. I'm not going to allow this to go the way it's going anymore. I'm going to stand up for myself. I'm going to be whatever I have to be to get these guys to respect me. So I went back out there. I stood up to the dude. I lost that fight, but I gained respect.
Mm-hmm.
And I continued to do it. And I continued to learn how to be more violent and express that type of violence. And I thrived on it. And it got to the point where quickly I advanced myself beyond the capacity and the capabilities of my contemporaries. And these were older guys. And it got to a point real quick where these guys were like intimidated by me.
Like, oh yeah,
they created a monster. They created a monster, right?
Hold up.
Because I jumped on it real quick, and I immersed myself in that culture. And by the time I was 14, I had older guys coming out of prison talking about, you're a stone cold killer, and they acknowledged me, and they would shake my hand, and they would give me respect, and I just, that was my
felt
juice.
Good though, huh?
Yeah, on top of the drugs, using the meth and the alcohol and the weed to be able to carry out these missions, getting the reward of their acknowledgement and their recognition was like the super adrenaline rush, that I needed. And it was like a way to replace that feeling that I was lacking at home with my family, the acceptance, the unconditional love that I was needing, that I felt like I was getting it finally with these guys, but it's never unconditional.
No, there's always conditions.
Yeah.
There's always conditions.
So I didn't mind putting my life on the line. I didn't mind taking all these risks and doing all these bad things to other people. To me, it was like worth the exchange, because I was in my addiction by then. I was addicted to the lifestyle. I was addicted to the drugs and everything that came
the lifestyle.
with it.
Yeah, that's a huge thing, right? It's a huge thing. A lot of times when we, you get sober, right, but you still have that lifestyle. Even when I got sober in prison, right, like, I still wanted to communicate and hang out with the dudes making moves on the yard. Yeah. I still didn't know how to set a boundary with them, because I'm a people pleaser. I want everybody to like me, right? I would still had this problem, and my sponsor was like, dude, you need to carry I used to hide the big book, right? I didn't want anyone to see it, right? Just like you always share on, being the sober dude on the yard isn't always the coolest guy. It's not always the easiest thing to do, right? We're always a snitch. We're the cops. We're, we're just trying to better our lives. But,
sure,
We were talking about this today. It was pretty funny. Ron went down to Cass, right? And every time you go down to Cass, what happened when you went down to Cass?
Man, I went down there like, as people are going to get mad, but I don't care.
Yeah.
So we go down to Cass. We take some of the clients down there, and it never fails. I'm down there, and I seen 5 dudes that I know from prison, different races, that behind the walls, they're somebody. Mm-hmm. But as soon as they come out here, they're at Cass. They're walking around with no shoes on, with burns on their arms. And I was like, from sleeping on the sidewalk, and I was just like, wow.
How quick it shifts, bro.
Man.
Yeah.
How quick it shifts.
They're in there changing people's lives and harming people and making decisions and manipulating youngsters to do certain things. And
calling back calls, having people killed for no reason. How many times have you seen that happen?
Too many. Too many.
Too many. So it's safe to say that once you get introduced to that lifestyle and you're willing to commit violence at all times and you're thriving on it, you're getting respect from the OGs and everything that comes with that, what also comes with that lifestyle is consequences. So when did you start experiencing consequences from this?
Okay, so by the time I was 16 years old, I was charged with attempted murder on a police officer.
They'll do it.
They frown upon that, like jacking off on airplanes. They frown upon that shit.
Yeah, the cops don't like when you try to kill them. So I ended up in state prison, real quick when I was 17.
Juvenile.
And I had done a lot of juvenile time already. I'd been through all the juvenile halls in the county, different counties and camp programs and all that. The probation, I went to placement, AWOD from none of that stuff helped me. It just made me worse. I learned how to fight better.
Real quick, the juvenile system is equal or worse than the adult system.
Yeah, I think maybe even a little worse, because when you're that young, I remember the first time at juvenile hall, I was tripped out because I was in a cell, right? But that had like pictures of Donald Duck and Mickey Mouse painted on the wall. Like if that was going to make it better, it just made it more creepy, bro.
Yeah.
Because you hear everybody yelling and kicking at the doors, trying to get out of there. And it's just like you're in an insane asylum and you're like a 10, 11-year-old kid, It's like, what the fuck? That's traumatic in itself. Then you see your favorite cartoon characters plastered on the wall, locked up with you. You're like, damn, we're all in jail.
They even got Mickey, man.
So I ended up back, I went straight to state prison when I was 17, from juvenile hall to state prison. I remember right away, like within the first couple months, I was in ADSEG for manufacturing weapons. Real quick, I got introduced into that other side, the other aspect of that lifestyle, from being on the streets and being a street, thug and all that, and a foot soldier, to being in the prison and seeing how these guys operate in there. And it's none of my business. It's not anything that I want to condemn or critique, but I'll say this much: I was very impressionable, and I was totally convinced that was the life I wanted to live forever. And so I made certain commitments, and I made certain adjustments in my life, and I did whatever I thought I needed to do to be accepted in that world, that I felt like that was my world now, and it was a survival technique.
Sure.
And I felt like this is how I'm going to survive. And I'm not just going to survive, but I'm going to be successful somehow in this environment. And ultimately, as years go by and, I developed into a more mature man, I started to, challenge my own beliefs and my own convictions, and a lot of it had to do with my own guilt. And feeling like I'm failing my kids because I'm having kids, but at the same time I'm trying to do this gangster shit.
Right.
And it just doesn't mix.
Nah, I don't check
I'm
out.
trying to have a wife, but I'm telling her I was married to them first. You know what I mean? You always come second. And thinking that she's still supposed to be loyal to me and good to me. And so I ended up back in prison again for sales and evading, went on a high-speed chase in my minivan.
Oh, in a minivan?
Yeah, with the kids' car seats in the back. I'm trying to throw dope out the window. I got scale in my pocket. I got dope all over the floorboard. I can't reach. And, it was a mess, bro.
High-speed chase in the minivan. Hey, even you haven't done that one.
No, not the minivan.
Yeah, not in the minivan. There's been some other cars, but it wasn't a minivan.
It wasn't a minivan.
Yeah, no chance of getting out of that one. Did 6 years for that. Lost everything. Lost my wife. My kids got displaced with other family members. I was miserable. you know. And so I thought, well, survival mode kicks in. What do I do? Well, I'm going to pick up this book right here. This book is going to show me the path. God's going to help me. I'm going to run with the Christian car. Right. So I did the whole Christian thing, and I was legit like serious with it. You know, I was on the main line. I was going to chapel. I was trying to preach the gospel. I was doing Bible studies. I learned theology, dude. I studied it so deep. Like,
I mean, you're highly intelligent.
I could
right?
break the
dude
Bible
is highly
down.
intelligent.
I hear it. I hear it in your voice.
Yeah, I know how to just break down verses. I can tell you front to back what the Bible says and all that. And I felt like by gaining this knowledge, by joining this new crew or this new clique or this new cult, right? This is how I'm going to survive. This is how I'm going to thrive. My family's now going to benefit. I'm finally doing away with this group, and I'm going to get into this group. And it might seem like that's what I'm doing now by getting into AA, right? But it's not the case. Now I really feel like I have a genuine relationship with God, who is my higher power, and I'm not a religious fanatic. I don't down anybody that does have a religious belief. That's fine if that works for them. But for me, based on my prior experiences, I can't do it because I get intellectually prideful when I have all this theological information and I feel like I have this superior doctrine to yours. And even if you're a Christian like me, you better be the type of Christian that I am and have the same
Or you
beliefs.
ain't doing it right.
Yeah, or you're not saved yet, bro.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You ain't overdosing on the Holy Ghost like me. You know what I mean? So all that did was it set me up to understand something profound. That my will, even if it seems like it's God's will, isn't necessarily God's will. And I can't assume to know what God's will is because the whole time I was doing that, I was willing for people to look at me and be dumbfounded. And I had guys ask me like, dude, why are you giving up what you had? Like, and I'm trying to get that, you know?
Like the youngsters trying to come up in the game.
I had
and they're like,
achieved a level of success, quote unquote.
Sure.
Right? In the culture through years and trials.
I mean, you went in,
tribulations.
is it so when you get into, Christianity or the Bible and this aspect of your life that you're talking about now, because you went in and out, 3 or 4 prison sentences.
Yeah.
Was this the 4th one?
That
the 3rd
was the
one?
second.
Oh, this was number 2?
That was a 6-year stretch that I did.
Okay. 6 year caught your attention. 6 piece will catch you.
I was like, you know what? God's going to do a miracle. He's going to bring my wife back. I did the time, stayed in prayer, stayed in fasting and doing all that stuff, teaching and preaching and doing all that. Get out. She's still on her shit. She's still in her addiction. She's in jail. She calls me. She says she wants to go to rehab. I put her in a Christian home. I had my sons with me at the time. We went and tried to get her back. I tried to restore my wife. You know, I thought I was going to be like Hosea or something, and I was going to be like that prophet that had to go after the woman that was no good. You know what I mean? Because God's showing them an example of how God is with his people. You know what I mean? Even though we're unfaithful. So I'm like, I'm going to be like God. I'm going to be like Jesus, and I'm going to just love Mary Magdalene. You know what I mean? Whatever. Like, you know what I'm saying? But nah, it doesn't work like that. Like, if that would have been God's will, it wouldn't have ended the way it did. And the fact is, our marriage was already done.
Yeah.
Way before I acknowledged it. And I only put myself and my kids through more pain and trauma than anything else because I was so stubborn in wanting to claim. I'm going to claim this verse right here that's in the book and say, it says right here, and telling God, you said right here, and I'm holding you to this, that if I get baptized, me and my house will be saved. I want her. Bring her back. It's right here. You said it, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, but she didn't come back. She didn't love me. She didn't want to be with me, and so I couldn't accept that. So I told my boys, you want to go with me? You want to stay with her? Well, we're staying with mom. She let them get away with everything. She was the one challenging me and undermining me. And so she set it up to where they're like, yeah, I want to stay with mom. So I'm like, fuck, that shit hurt, So I bounced and I got into MMA. I started working 2 jobs and I was trying to stay just active and I was sober. I was dry sober.
Yeah.
And I thought I had this faith that was going to sustain me and hold me down. But ultimately, the disease, man, came creeping around.
Oh, yeah.
Like cunning, baffling, powerful.
Oh, yeah.
The snake, you know what I mean? The serpent just slithered this way out. And it's like, come on, let's just go have a couple drinks.
No big
Let's kick
deal.
it with these girls that like to get high. Let's
Just
go to the
one night.
Momo and have some marathon meth sex. You know what I'm saying? Like, quick. But I was just like, boom, back at it again, sticking needles in my arm, drinking every day, partying, started working at a tattoo shop. And
I mean, just on a quick side note, dude, I don't care what you say, but this man can tattoo, bro. I'm not going to shout it out because he told me not to, dude. But I'm telling you, dude, your work is
thank you, bro.
phenomenal, dude.
It's It's
Thank
excellent.
you.
It's
That's the one good thing that I did get from prison.
Yeah.
I started doing
If
that.
you could
a long
tattoo with that
time.
equipment in prison, you get out there and
Yeah.
get some real equipment.
Single
Some
needle
people
guitar
though,
string.
yeah,
Yep.
some people can't. But if they learned how to tattoo in prison, then they come out and they use real equipment. Some people can't do it, but
Right.
you definitely can.
Yeah, I've been fortunate. to be able to continue to practice the art. But see, working in that environment at the time, it was just an easier way for me to continue to fucking stay loaded. Like, dude, I was
Yeah.
able to tattoo and be high all day. What addict doesn't want that life?
Sounds like a
Get
telemarketing
paid
lifestyle.
and
Sounds
get
like
high,
telemarketing.
and my boss
me.
never tripping. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like,
Shoot meth tattoo
Dude.
for 20 hours.
yeah. So I was delusional thinking like, this works. I can do this, you know?
I'm
And-
functioning.
Yeah, functioning. And then
Meth
I
has
end
a
up
way of doing that, huh?
Yeah. Then I end up getting loaded and doing some stupid shit, get charged with threatening some Buddhist monk at a temple. He said I was going to blow up his temple, whatever. I know
Allegedly?
I scared him because I went in there, you know, allegedly he said
Yeah.
I was going to blow up his temple, but I went to prison, man, because I got no action, bro. If I get charged with anything,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
they're never going to take my word over the accusation. Like,
Oh, never.
my
Not
record,
over a monk.
Yeah,
Yeah.
No,
yeah.
you lose.
Yeah,
Yeah,
especially not over a monk, dude.
Yeah,
I
you
mean,
lose
this
to the
peaceful
monk.
guy.
Yeah.
Are you gonna believe this bald guy or
Yeah.
this bald guy? You know what I mean?
The tattoos on the
You
neck.
put the monk on the stand, he ain't gonna say nothing though.
Yeah.
He might be one of them monks that don't speak for a year.
Yeah, dude. So I, just doing stupid shit, being high, wandering around, going to places I shouldn't have been. The other one was felony resisting arrest. I went on a trip. I was in psychosis, bro. Like, I thought I was the Messiah. I felt like God had chosen me to take over the world, and I was going to conquer the nations and wipe out the government and all the agents of the government and all the, like, dude, I was tripped out,
Yeah,
right?
you were tripping.
I went on a rampage, man. I went to go see my sons. I knocked on the door, nobody answered. And I went to visit them where they live with their grandparents and their mom. Their mom was in the hospital. She had just wrecked her car at the time. And I for some dumb reason, I looked down, I see the chair right there in front of the porch. I was like, oh, that's a good idea. I grabbed the chair and slammed the window, just busted the whole front window, right?
I'll get in.
At like midnight. Yeah, and I wasn't even trying to get in. I just was wanting to wake them up.
Oh yeah.
So
they'll hear
then
this.
they all come on. They're like, what the hell's going on? I'm like, hey, man, I'm just fucking around. It's me. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. And I'm like, go ahead, call 911. I'm waiting for them boys. I got something, like, thinking I'm going to fucking take them down, you know?
Yeah.
They show up, man, it didn't go good for me, bro.
No.
They beat the dog shit out of me. Like, I got beat up so bad, and they tased me about 3 times. They just mopped me, bro. Just
Yeah.
like totally mopped me. I didn't do nothing to them. They just, they got me. And
But they hit you with the resistance.
I got charged, of course,
Yeah.
because they had to take me to the hospital. So they had
Yeah.
to justify why I looked so beat up, right? Couldn't see out of one eye. Other eye was all busted, bloody everywhere. So I ended up going to court, man, and I'm thinking, this can't be happening. They're going to drop the charge. They're going to drop. No, they didn't drop it. I went to prison for felony resisting arrest on my last case. But it's because I was high. I was high on meth, and I was drinking Mike's hard lemonade.
Oh, the Mike's Hard Lemonade.
Yeah, and I was up for a few days too long, and I was in my psychosis trip, and that psychosis lasted a while, bro. I realized that psychosis, it lingers. It doesn't just last while you're high or until you just come down, because even months after,
Oh yeah.
I was in there writing manifestos and indictments against the world. You know what I mean? Like, against the elites and the world leaders, and like, you guys are all on this paper. You guys are charged and found guilty. You know what I mean? I'm the judge. This is your condemnation, right?
Hey, psychosis ain't
Just
no joke.
tripped out,
Hey, but
bro.
I'll tell you right now, dude, post-acute withdrawal from any drug, dude, post-acute withdrawal, especially from meth, post-acute withdrawal, that's after you stop using, before the brain levels itself out, the neural pathways and the dopamine and the pleasure center of your brain, depending on the frequency and how much you've been using and for how long you've been using, dude, that shit could last 1.5 to 2 years, bro, before the brain's marvelous. It'll heal itself. But that ain't no joke.
No, it
Well,
ain't.
what's scary about that, and I can hear it in your voice. So there's that point of that psychosis, right? When we're writing the manifestos and we're coming up with the grandiose plans, right? But then when the brain is healing itself, and that scary moment where you don't think your brain's gonna snap back, where like you're in enough reality to know that this has all been bullshit, but I'm not all the way back yet. Am I stuck here?
Yeah, that's
right.
the
And
old
you're all,
in-between.
right? You know what I'm saying? And you're all paranoid
Yeah.
that this is the way it's going to be for the rest of my life.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure, man.
Frightening.
For sure. Especially when you're having like visions and, dreams, prophetic revelations, you know what I mean? Coincidental things happening, like, oh, that's a sign, you know what I mean? Like,
oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's a trip. So I went back out and, I kind of phased out from that whole psychosis trip, and I just went back to work, back to the shop. And, of course, back to drinking, back to smoking weed.
It comes together.
And I'm the type, and I come from this kind of background where, like, in the culture, it's like, oh, this dude's doing good, man. He's doing real good now. He just smokes weed and drinks now.
California sober.
He's doing good. Like,
California sober.
That's not doing good. You know what I mean? I'm an alcoholic. Like, I love to freaking get shit-faced, like drunk.
Yeah.
And the reason why I like to use meth sometimes, most of the time, is because I can continue drinking. You know what I mean? Like, you drink longer when you're high on some type of upper. So it all goes hand in hand. And, of course, that's what ends up happening. I'll start with weed. I'll start with alcohol. And eventually I'll stick a needle in my arm, and I'm doing big fat shots of syrup, or I'm smoking out of the bong, and like just so I can level out. And now I'm riding this wave and I feel like I'm good. I'm still sleeping at night. And I justify it. I can sleep. I can eat.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm
go to
well rested.
work.
I'm showering. I'm working.
I eat.
My work's coming out legit. I'm not
sleep.
digging nobody out. Yeah, I'm doing. I'm responsible. I'm a good functional addict. I don't have a problem like this dude that's in the gutter, that's on the street selling, stolen goods and stuff like that and breaking into people's houses. Like, I consider myself superior to all of that. So that was my delusion. I was in denial about the problem that I had for so many years, like 27 years of self-denial. And it all accumulated to a certain point where, because of my drug use, because of my psychosis trips, because of me being in survival mode and trying to manipulate like the actor scenario, wanting to conduct the orchestra and set the stage and have the actors perform accordingly, me wanting to be God in my own life only caused others to despise me. And I made certain tactical decisions that weren't favorable to me. And the people that I used to be very on very good terms with, all of a sudden they become my opponents because they don't like the way I'm living. And now, because I put myself in a position to be judged, to be, critiqued and evaluated, right, based on performance, because it's always that. You're always evaluated based on your current status.
Mm-hmm. You're only as good as your last game, right? Brother.
Yeah,
that's it.
So,
tell the girls that all the time.
When you switch up or you change and you're like deviate from the original format, and it's like, no, who the fuck do you think you are?
Yeah,
you know what I mean. You're not gonna go over here and just fucking tattoo and live your life and happy life and still get high.
No, that's not happening.
And think you're better than me.
Yeah, and think you're better than me. And the devil's gonna come collect his due. You know what I'm saying? And that's ultimately what happened to me, is that I thought I could have my cake and eat it too. Right. And it doesn't work like that. And God was teaching me a valuable lesson. If I put myself back in that situation, regardless of the fact, like, I'm asking for more trouble because I'm tempting death with my life. I'm tempting the inevitable outcome of destruction, because there is nothing good that's going to come from that. That's all it's always ever been for me. It's been death and destruction repeatedly. The violence and the pain and all that stuff. And like, I have trauma from what's been done to me as a child. I have trauma from what I've observed happening to others on the streets and in prison. And I have trauma from what I've done, right? You traumatize yourself sometimes from the shit that you yourself do.
Oh, no doubt.
Sure.
You know,
100%.
And all that did for me was just, it cultivated this anxiety, this depression, this overwhelming sense of guilt, remorse, shame, self-pity, worthlessness. And at the end, ultimately, and I'd like to say, well, it's because I got betrayed by this person, that person, I had nowhere to turn, nobody to trust. And so I've said, fuck it, my life is at an end. It wasn't just that. It was inside of me, internally. I felt like I deserved it. And so I took out my knife, stood in front of a mirror, and stabbed myself in the neck repeatedly, slit my wrist open, took about 30 of my blood pressure pills, whatever was left in my bottle, chewed them up, swallowed them, and stood there and just bled. I was ready to go. Like, I was totally ready to check out. And when I went to the hospital, I woke up after surgery. Okay, so after surgery, I wake up in this gurney. They just rolled me out of the surgical room, and I'm like mad, right? I'm pissed off because
you're still
why am I still here?
Can't even get that right.
Because the last thing I remember was standing in a pool of my own blood, and just knowing that my body's just gonna eventually, I'm just gonna drain. You know what I mean? Because I was leaking. I thought I hit that main artery right here, the carotid artery. And the lady the surgeon that did my surgery, she said I barely missed it because I stabbed myself so hard the muscle pushed against it. You know, and you can see the scar. Yeah,
I can see it.
Like I went in there, like I thought I was trying to, I thought I was doing a good job when I got it, but I bled out.
Can you imagine getting you got a Crocodile Dundee knife, dude? You have that.
It was like a regular, pocket knife, like a buck knife.
Oh, it was a little buck knife.
Yeah.
Just standing in the mirror and just
getting it, bro.
That's pain. That's trauma. That's pain and trauma coming to a head. Guilt, shame, embarrassment, remorse, regret, trauma, all the levels of trauma, all coming to a point where you're willing to make the supreme sacrifice rather than continue to fight,
Yeah, for sure. After I woke up, I just pulled all the stuff out. Like I had the IVs and I yanked them out, pulled the catheter out. That shit hurt like hell.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I've done that.
And jumped off the bed, ran back into the surgical room, was looking for a scalpel or something. Couldn't find it. The nurses were ecstatic. They were like, "What are you doing? Calm down, sir. Calm down." And I just grabbed a syringe. I seen a real big syringe. And I don't know what was in it, but I just grabbed it and just stabbed myself in the chest with it. And I was in such a hurry, dude, that I just didn't even take the cap off. And it just folded on me. So I was like, damn. That was my one last chance.
This is it. There it is.
Yeah, and they sedated me, and I woke up a couple of days later in another hospital. And that's when...
Oh yeah, I'm sure you went to another hospital.
Yeah. You got to go, brother. We got to get him out of here.
We got a special hospital.
Ativan and a transport.
Yeah. So my sister that's been in recovery for the past few years, Joanna, she's the one that went through a lot of the trauma with me early on, and she's had a rough life as a result too of the things that happened to us. And she's got recovery now, and she's been 3 years in the program.
Big shout out.
Yeah.
Big shout out, Joanna. Big shout out.
Look at that smile,
bro. That was them two, man.
Yeah, it's a trip. It's a trip because I think she was the first one that introduced me to weed. I caught her smoking weed in my mom's apartment in the bathroom. I wanted to go swimming, and she was supposed to take me down. And I opened the door, and she was there smoking a joint, and I closed the door, and she goes, Come here, hold on, come here. And she goes, I'll let you smoke. Don't tell on me.
Yeah, don't say nothing. You better
not all right. She's like, here, hit it. Man, I remember that's where it all started, right? So, not to blame her or anything, but I think she was the first person that introduced me to smoking weed, and she's also the one that extended, the hand of AA to me. And she used to tell me like, "Bro, why don't you go to a meeting?" And I'm like, "I'm not going to your fucking cult."
Yeah,
like,
I'm not
cool
going that.
Like you guys are weird. Yeah, you guys are a bunch of weirdos, right? And dude, all the times I was in prison, I used to see the AA book, and I never wanted to read it because I got the Bible. And it was there the whole time. And she's like, "Bro, why don't you go to treatment?" So I was like, "All right, I'll give it a shot, And I came out to Arizona, got into treatment. And it wasn't easy at first,
it wasn't easy, man. It wasn't easy, man. I want everybody. It wasn't easy. And when we talk about how the brain is hijacked by drugs and alcohol, I mean, it is no joke. You think you just stop and everything's going to be okay? That's one of my favorite things, not favorite things, but when I hear people say in 6-7 days of detox and I'm good now, I got to get me a job again, right? That's good, right? No, dude, it is not good. You haven't even got started yet. So you come out from the hospital, major suicide attempt. I mean, it wasn't like, a cry for help. This was, I want to die. This isn't a cry for help type suicide. God has bigger plans for you. You come out here, you're into a new treatment facility out in Arizona. And what happens when you get there, man?
Dude, I was a mess. And I wasn't happy within myself. I just didn't have any peace. I still wanted to die, and I had a plan. And I voiced that to somebody, one of the staff members. He's like, "All right, hold on, man, sit down." I was like, "Just give me my phone, bro. I'm out of here." He's like, "Wait, why? Where are you going? What are you gonna do?" I was like, "I'm gonna go. I'm gonna fucking take off. I'm gonna get me some blues. I'm gonna fucking go die somewhere." He's like, "No, wait a minute, bro. I can't let you leave. Like, you have to have a seat." So we sat there and chopped it up. Shout out to Colin. He was working there at the time, and he related to me, bro, big time. He knew where I was coming from. He'd been around. He'd done a lot of time. He experienced a lot of the same shit that I did. And I got open with him, and he was real with me. And at the end, I felt better, and I was like, all right, I can go back to her own. He's like, nah, bro.
Nah.
You got to wait. Crisis is on his way.
Yeah. Yeah, brother.
Yeah, so I got snatched up, and I was gone for a week.
I'm glad I was
man.
able to de-escalate the situation, but transport's here. We'll see you back in 72.
Yeah.
We'll hold the bed for you.
See you later, Buck.
Yeah, and I was gone for a whole week, bro. They kept me for a week.
Oh, they kept you for a week?
A whole week,
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, they had some stuff to straighten out.
Yeah, I had some stuff to straighten out. Went back, though, and I just embraced the program. You know, my sponsor, Lee.
Shout out, Lee.
Yeah, love you, bro.
Yeah.
He showed up for me. And I thank God for that, you know, for that man doing that for me. He didn't have to. He gave himself to be of service to a man who was sick and suffering. And I learned from his example, and I do that today. And that's what I learned, how God works through people to reach out to those who are in a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body, you know, and then from that emerges a man brimming over with confidence, right, and self-reliance
and contentment.
Right? I love it when you say that quote, bro. And it's so true, because I couldn't have never imagined that this is where I would be in such a short amount of time. It's been 8 months, and my life has got exponentially better. Like, I have so much to be thankful for today, what God is doing in my life. And like I said, I'm not religious. I do respect, you know, religions and people's beliefs and faith, and I still like the Bible. I do read the Bible, especially the Old Testament. I love the Old Testament. And other books like the Book of Enoch. I love that book for some reason. It's real trippy. It's like apocalyptic, you know, and all that doomsday shit. I love that. But I love God, bro, and I feel like I have more of an authentic, organic relationship with God, because I don't have to pretend and fake in front and put on a different, you know, costume when I'm in front of people talking about God, and then when I'm, you know, by myself, or when I'm in prayer circles, like speaking in a whole nother vernacular. You know what I'm saying? Like, God knows me, and like I talk to God like he's my dad, because that's how I see him. He's the dad I've always had that I just didn't know it. Yep. And I ask him, like, Dad, I want this threesome. What's up? Can I get these 2 chicks? Like, I do. Yeah. I pray for it. Yeah. I don't know. I don't necessarily get it, right? Yeah. But I'm willing to take that. Like, but it's worth to try to ask. You know what I'm saying? He's my dad. I might want a whole harem like that. I want to be like King Solomon. Let me get 700 wives. Like, what's up with that? You know what I'm saying? Solomon had it. Why can't I? There's a verse in the Bible that says, you're my son, ask of me and I'll give you the nations for your inheritance. I'm like, I'll take the nations. You know what I mean? Let me get them. I'm not saying I'm the Messiah, but I'm like, if that spot's open, I'll volunteer. You know what I'm saying? Like, can I apply for the position? You know, I have like this whole different outlook about it, man. Like, I don't know what God's going to do in my life. I don't know what is in the future for me. All I know is that he has shown me so much favor, so much mercy. There's so many instances in my life where I should have been long gone by now. I should either be dead, on death row, or at least doing an LWOP somewhere, right? And, like, there's been many attempts on my life. I've been shot at point blank range. I've shot myself. I've stabbed myself. And that's fucked up, right? Because that's the only time that's happened to me is I've been shot and stabbed, but I did it to myself both times.
Attaboy.
Yeah, I've been in shootouts. I've been facing charges with life sentences, you know. I got jumped one time by a bunch of dudes with guns, and they pistol whipped me and busted bottles on me, and they were going to shoot me, and for whatever reason they didn't. Somebody said, "No, don't blast him, just pistol whip him," and that's what he did, and I'm here. So many times people have hated me and hated my life to the point where they're willing to kamikaze and just fucking do me in on broad daylight in front of God and everybody, and for whatever reason it didn't happen that way, right? And so I know where my blessings come from. And today I don't live in fear of death, because I have not just escaped death, but I've been given a reprieve. Mm-hmm. I've been given a pardon. I'm a condemned man who has been pardoned today. And I thank God, because whatever reasons he has, that's the reason why I'm here. And I want to fulfill that purpose. And so far it's been great, just experiencing being of service to others and carrying this message of recovery to others, letting people know that there's a solution, that this book is not Holy Scripture. It's not inspired, authoritative word of God, but it is something that will definitely suggest that you do find yourself connecting consciously with a higher power, which is the creator, the source of all life, however that looks like to the particular person. It's all inclusive. And that's the message that I want to share with people, is letting them know, like, this is how it worked for me. This is how it worked for the guy who showed me. and so on and so forth, all the way to Bill Wilson and the first 100 guys, right? It's powerful stuff, man, and this is how God is working in my life. I really, really enjoy the reward of being able to do stuff for other people, not expecting anything in return. Being able to bear witness of the changes that I see in other men's lives. You guys inspire me. You know, when I hear you speak, when you guys come over, like I first met you guys when you guys went to the facility to share and run meetings and stuff like that, and I was just super inspired, man. Because I was in that seemingly hopeless state of mind and body still. Like I was still like trying to get my bearings, you know what I mean? Like I was still trying to like kick being high, you know what I mean? Like get off of the drugs and alcohol. When I seen you guys, I'm like, dude, these guys are shining. They got something. How did they get it? That's what I want too.
And then that's the whole point. That's why we do it, right? You know, it's experience, strength, and hope. And then in hope, so you would say, well, shit, he's been through the same damn things I have. Maybe not the same experiences, people, places, and things, but the core root of it, the same issues, the same problems, the same thing I got, and he doesn't live that way. And the motherfucker happy now?
Yeah.
Shit, how'd you do it? Great question. I'm glad you asked. Why don't you give me a call tomorrow and we can figure this thing out, right?
Yeah, it's great, man. And the thing is, too, like I've learned also not to take things so personally. So I've learned to humble myself before God and accept whatever God's will is for me. Like I said, I might ask him for all these things that I want, but I don't demand it. I'm not like that bratty ass kid. And it talks about that in the 12 and 12, where it's like some people, you know, they have this struggle with God and their faith in God because they were more like those kids that are just spoiled rotten, and they make a Christmas wish list and Santa don't give them what they want. So now they don't believe in Santa. It's not like that with me no more. I do trust in God's wisdom, and I want what he wants. Like if he asks me, what do you want for Christmas? I'll be like, you decide. Because I might pick a PS5, but you're probably going to give me like 20 better things than that.
20
you know what
sponsees, what he's going to
get. Right. So I just want what God wants in my life. But I do make my request, but I also leave it in his hands. And the thing about it is if I can see somebody change because I'm able to be of service to them, I can never take credit for that. I can never be like, yeah, I did that. I shot that. I gave that dude the inspiration he needed. Like, you know, I can't take credit for whatever happens if something positive comes about me showing up and doing service work. And just like I also can't blame myself if I do my part and that person still relapses and dies, because I've seen that happen as well.
Yeah, we all have.
I've got sponsees right now that are out there, even though they completed the steps and started picking up sponsees, and they went back out. And I'm trying to get this dude back in the program. Man, I love you, bro. Jonathan, if you're out there, just come back home.
Yeah. Come back.
It's rough, man. This shit's a fucking deadly disease, and we've seen a lot of people die. I've seen people die, close friends of mine that were in program that are no longer here because they just gave up. And I know what that feeling's like. I know what it's like to be in that dark place. But it's a lot better. It's a lot brighter, and it's a lot warmer in the light.
It sure is.
You know, so just come on home, guys.
I just want to say something real quick. You know, we're blessed to be able to go into these facilities, right? We get the opportunity to go in just like you are now, right? That paying it forward, I guess, if you want to say. 2 months ago, I was speaking at a meeting, and when I left, I hear, hey, Ronnie, no matter what. And it was you standing there.
Yeah.
And it'd been a while since I seen you.
Yeah.
Last time I seen you, you were a little skinnier.
Yeah.
Right?
A lot. Yeah.
A little wiry.
Yeah.
You know, you still had the... And there you were, just like there you were standing in the center of this place, and there was people waiting to talk to you because that's who you are now. You're a conductor, you're a connector, you help people, you share your experience, you're employable, you're kind, you're loving. And all of your experiences have led you to this moment. And just to sit here and listen to you and listen to how you talk, and you kept hitting that big book, you're making this guy smile.
Yeah, you know, I like that. Anytime someone makes a
his
subtle...
ears are going to hurt tonight, man, because he was... Every time you hit a big book, and he looked at me and he was like...
Yeah, subtle references to big books, one words that lead you right into the steps. I love those.
It's unbelievable what can happen if we get out of our own way and we allow God to decide what we get for Christmas and we don't pick it. I love how you said that, right? I'm going to sell myself short.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm going to leave it up to you. That's truly living in God's will, right?
Yeah.
And that's a challenge we all are going to face for the rest of our lives. Living in our will, or living in God's will and not our will. What I do know, I don't have the answers, but what I do know is when I serve others, that's God's will.
Yeah, it is.
When I serve others,
I know that for certain.
Yeah.
for certain,
I know
in any
that.
capacity, that's what God wants, because it all comes down to love, right?
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah. Thank you.
I mean,
brother.
dude, but and so when I hear your story also too, it's just like it's always that belief in God, whatever conception that you have, but it's coupled with the action steps of the program. It's got to be both of them. I can't just read the Bible and think that I can just read it, and then as soon as I read it, everything's going to happen. My girl's going to come back. I'm going to have a great job. I'm going to stay sober. It doesn't work, but we take that faith and that belief and that relationship that you create through reading the Bible, whatever literature, whatever you pray to, prayer, meditation, and then you couple it with the steps you're designed for living and the action steps that give you the ability to surrender on a day-to-day basis and to continue to have hope and faith and continue to keep your resentments in check and live, in God's sufficiency, and remember to keep the faith when fear creeps back in. You continue to use the 4-step, and then here we are with relationships. Everything in life is a series of relationships. The fourth step taught me that I didn't know how to have one, but now I know how to have one because I established that with my homework in the 4-step. Right. I got to continue to be honest. It's the design for living coupled with the spiritual belief of God, whatever you choose to call it, because it's your relationship, not mine. You put that together, and that's the combo, bro.
it's the works, right?
Yeah.
Faith without works is dead.
Exactly. That's the combo.
Faith, you have to,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's got to go together. And so, man, you graduate this program, you volunteer at this program, they hire you at this program, they move you to a new facility at this program. You're sponsoring guys at all the different facilities with this program. We chair a meeting together at this program, and anytime, I mean, basically, I get pretty busy with soccer, right? But Daniel's my guy, dude. He's my guy, right? Like he basically became the chairman of this meeting just by covering for me. Like this his meeting, so now I come to support him, and we do it together. But I haven't made it a fee, but damn well that's your meeting. Yeah, it's his meeting.
I love it.
It's his meeting.
It's your turn.
That's the juice right there for me, is just showing up for the guys, and I know that I have to do these things, and I can't slack off on it. I can't ever feel complacent about it and be like, you know what, I'm good. I don't have to do this service commitment. I don't have to go to that meeting. I don't have to call my sponsor anymore. I don't have to work through the book anymore with anybody. Like, I know that I will fucking die if I don't work this program. And I love myself today, so I don't want to die anymore. And I learned that through this program. So I owe it to myself to continue to carry the message. I don't do it so much because I believe that I have this, special gift and this talent and this calling, to save others. I know that I owe it to the one who saved me to be of service in whatever capacity he deems necessary. And if he wants me to go into the gutter, into the trenches, if he wants me to go and shine some light in the darkest places, the places that I'm familiar with, I'm going to do that until I die. Because like my sponsor used to tell me, we're uniquely qualified to go in and help people in those areas that other normal people could never touch. Like they just can't relate, and I think that's God's wisdom, is that he pulls us out so that he can send us back in and show the guys how we did it, how we got out. And it's always pointing up, we got to point up to where we get our stuff from, that's where it's at. It's with God,
And I mean, he's out there shining that. I mean, dude, I'm telling you right now, I pull up to the facility. He's got a sponsee at one table, a sponsee on another table. He's telling another sponsee, you're actually the speaker tonight, so get ready.
Yeah.
Yeah, you came to speak tonight. Sit down. You got to get uncomfortable to grow. Dude, it's just it's so awesome to see it. That's why I go to service commitments on a Saturday night at 7 p.m. or midday Sunday when football's on, or in the evening time on Sunday night. This is the reason why we all do this, because if one person, and we got one living example of it right here, if you were the only one that was to come out of all that time spent, then it's all worth it, dude. And that's why we do this thing, man. So you're an inspiration. And we're talking about your sobriety, 8 months, right? It doesn't matter. I always tell everyone, dude, sobriety, it doesn't matter. You got something to share. You got 3-4 weeks, you got something to share. Sick. Dude,
Yeah,
the
for
people
sure.
who are in early recovery, who are doing the deal, who are experiencing the promises, the blessings, the miracles in their life, and who are on fire for this shit are going to be able to reach the ones who are in their first 24 hours. You get an old timer, shout out old timers, no disrespect, but when you got 40 years and you're talking about, the same old shit, and you got some dude just trying to figure out how to make it for the next 5 minutes, when someone in their first 6 months, 8 months, first year can show you how they did it, right? It becomes more attainable to the newcomer, man. And you're shining that light at all times. It's been a pleasure to have you on the show. I'll never forget when I heard you speak. I mean, you kept it PG tonight, which I can respect. I can respect it, dude, but you can hear it, dude. Go back, listen to the episode. You can hear it in his voice. Watch it. It's a whole nother level to see him do his thing. Man, dude, it's just a blessing to have you on the show. Ron, I love you. You know that.
Love you too.
Continue to follow us, Powerless to Powerful Podcast. You can find us on Facebook. Look up TikTok, Ronnie No Matter What, the Powerless to Powerful page. Subscribe. If you want to get on the show, continue to drop messages. We'll get you booked in. We're pretty booked up, but we will find time for you. Continue to share the message because recovery is a team sport. And Daniel, I'm just so grateful you're on our team, bro. I love you, and thank you for being here today.
Thank you. I love you guys too. Thanks for having me.
Woo! Good job, baby.